We just got back from Ghost in the Shell, the live-action version starring Scarlett Johansson, which is basically a reimagining of the classic 1995 film. Now, first off, how many? Yeah, 95,
Oh,
Joe.
I haven't seen
This is by Mamoru Oshii, I believe. And Joe, have you seen this?
No.
You haven't?
Not at all.
I have, but I don't.
It's been a long time.
Shame. That's what I hear.
Shame. It's one of the best animes of all time. Some people consider it. Of course, in my view, it's definitely top 10, maybe top 5. It deals with a lot of philosophical questions in a sort of futuristic sci-fi setting. It reminds me of Blade Runner a lot, especially with the visuals. But basically, it's a story about the Major, who is the leader of a elite unit called Section 9 that sort of polices these new cybernetic enhancements. Obviously, you need a beefed up team to handle these beefed up people with military upgrades, augments, just information overload. They're very intelligent. And this story centers around this character, the Major, played by Scarlett Johansson, who essentially is a complete machine body with a human soul and a human brain. And this is supposed to be eventually where all humanity is heading, because this future...
Like
you don't like that idea? Oh, come on, Joe. You wouldn't want a super strong body? I bet you Scarlett Johansson could totally out-arm wrestle you.
Just give me miniguns.
Super strength? You'd be Superman, Joe.
I don't know about
And you could disappear with a suit. Go invisible.
You could be
Imagine
Deadshot.
what you can do with that.
with being invisible.
You can't tell me that shit ain't cool.
X-ray vision.
So it's very, very visually impressive. That's what I gotta say about the movie. It is fucking
gorgeous.
eye candy.
I didn't know what to look at. I was like looking at everything.
There's so much on screen,
scanning
it was
everything.
crazy.
Yeah, the cinematography was really good.
Yeah, really good. I just love this world. In fact, and we're judging just from the new Blade Runner trailer, this world looks way more cool in that Blade Runner sense than even Blade Runner does.
Oh, yeah,
I
for
love.
sure.
Now they're different a little bit. This is, of course, Japan. They don't ever say what city, like a new city, whatnot, a fictional city. But so in Japan you have more of the heightened colors and just giant-sized advertisements that are playing. I love that shit.
How people don't crash. I would be like looking at all the signs.
Right. Swimming fish along what the hell? I don't understand. Was that an
crossing the
advertisement?
street.
Yeah, fish
Giant
crossing.
people's faces just sticking out of buildings and growing outwards.
Exactly.
It was super weird.
So I loved the visuals in this movie. I think it pays homage to the original. It really nails that part of the original. That's what this film does well. Unfortunately, it doesn't really live up to it. The problems start happening in its story and the pacing. Is where I'm feeling this film fails a little bit. It suffers from one-dimensional characters, and I think why, and I'm wondering how much of the movie the audience actually followed. Because it does deal with complex plots, but they dumbed down the original, I think, in order to have audiences understand it better. But I don't think that these audiences that they're targeting still followed it the whole way through, I don't know.
It was definitely more simplified compared to the original, but it was a lot more easy to follow, I think.
I think, and Beard, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, this is most fresh in your mind. It was a mixture of the lore. It's a mixture of all the different stories we've had.
It was a mix of standalone complex and the original movie.
Yeah.
In fact, they had a couple scenes straight out of standalone complex.
Yeah.
Scene for scene.
Well, they had a few scenes that were straight out of the original.
Yeah.
We're talking the spider tank battle at the end. So it's got a great boss battle ending. So this is a great video game universe.
It is.
I know there's been a video game, I think on PS2, but this is a universe I'd like to explore, but I don't know if they have any plans for that. So
they have one right now, but it's not that great.
It's not that great. Shit, I didn't know that. But like I said, it's a damn shame because they go for the origin story because I think they try to push it more towards comic book movies or having these origin stories. So we focus on the major, her backstory, exploring who she is, where she comes from, realizing that maybe things that she's been told hasn't necessarily been true. And they kind of ignore the whole philosophical questions that the original raised and just focus on an origin. And then maybe, I guess, they plan to explore that in a sequel.
It really felt like they were setting up for a sequel.
Yeah.
It really felt like this was like the paving blocks of what they want to do in the future with the rest of the series.
Especially because they don't focus at all on any of the members of Section 9. They do... Bato has a good amount in the film, but none of the other members. You know?
Like they all have cameos.
Yeah, cameos.
Like, I wanted to see more of Takusa and Saito.
Right, that fucking sniper, and I didn't see the guy that's really good, like their hacking specialist that's always jacked in with the beard. I don't really see much of him, if at all. But who we did see is Aramaki, the leader, and was this old dude, this old Japanese dude that's in charge of Section 9, the secret organization. He's a fucking badass. He's got such a stoic face, and you tell that he's been through some shit.
He's seen a lot of shit.
He actually has some action scenes in this, which we don't really see in the anime very often. So I think that was well done. But like I said, it's visually beautiful, but I think the story lags behind the actual visuals. Joe, what do you think?
I need to watch the anime hearing you guys talk.
Yeah, no,
that's basically what
it doesn't
it
live
boils
up.
down to that.
It doesn't live up to the anime because the anime deals with the sense of self, what it means to have an identity, and all that kind of. They do deal with that a little bit.
They do a little bit.
They do a little bit, but I guess it was kind of pushed aside in more favor for I
feel like the director straight up was like, the original anime, the original movie was way too complex for like the majority of an audience that's going to go see this.
Yeah.
And so, because like you were saying earlier,
it is very niche.
He had to really conform to what he thought people would understand.
Mm-hmm. They sort of boiled this down into corporate is evil.
Yep.
They have Hanaka Corporation in this who creates these robotic technologies and ends up creating the Major, and they own sort of her body, and that plays into the film, this idea of consent and if you're human, whether you still have rights or if you're a mixture of these body parts and just a soul and a brain, whether you even have consent.
It's worth mentioning though that even though it did have pacing issues and it did have like a mixture and not really the original story, it wasn't not a bad movie.
No,
it was
not at all.
A bad movie.
Not at all. It's just the fact that it's going and it's going to be compared with such a juggernaut in the anime industry and a well done story there, and this one tries to deal with that, but they focus more on the Major, and it has pacing issues. I mean, I'd say about 20-30 minutes in the middle of the film, I was disengaged. I was like, I found it interesting at all times, like just visually.
Yeah.
I didn't want to take my eyes off it. But at the story, I was wishing we need some more action here. And at the beginning, when you see those geishas in the trailer, you get a really amazing action scene. It was so well done, and everything looks so uber cool. I turned to Joe. I was like, that was fucking good. That was some good shit. And we had seen most of it in the trailers and the behind-the-scene clips and stuff that were already released. But we got a little bit more, and I was like, that was some good shit. But then you don't really get any of that until the end. And the stuff in the middle doesn't live up to the original because another big part of it, I think, is the soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
And while the ending credits, and I think the beginning of the film...
The beginning of the film did
have that sort of haunting, older Japanese language where they're chanting and they're singing. That was not in the film. It was only in the beginning and in the end credits. If you would have done those sort of sweeping shots, well, not even the battle scenes, Joe. We're setting up atmosphere and mode, but yes,
a lot of ambient music.
The ambience, and setting that up to give it this otherworldly sort of, fantasy or sci-fi setting. and it doesn't do that.
Yeah, you have to
Instead, it
wonder-
opts for more of a formulaic Hollywood type of pace.
You have to wonder because with so much to go off of, you have to wonder how much was held up by licensing with like the songs and everything. Because you got to think that they were probably like, oh yeah, while they were designing, they were like, let's throw this in, let's throw this in. And at times it feels like they set up for it, but then they were like held back in what they were allowed to do.
There were a lot of fan service.
Yep.
There was some good fan service.
super.
Valuable.
It is.
From a non-fan standpoint, were you able to follow this storyline where you essentially have two villains? Were you able to follow this?
Yes, I was,
Okay.
but at certain times I was disengaged, and I kind of wanted to know more about the characters because the only one I really
We could talk about the characters a little bit in the spoiler section, but there is sort of two villains. I think the initial villain was far more fascinating than what we had.
He was. Yeah, I noticed that too.
In the second half, where it turns into a formulaic bad guy, super cover everything up kind of thing, But anyways, so let's go to a final verdict because it's very difficult to talk about this
Without
film without
spoiling it,
doing spoilers, and we'll do a quick spoiler section in the same video. So let's go ahead and issue some final verdicts. We'll start with Dell.
All right, given the fact that I'm just happy that it existed, and I wasn't super disappointed with
I'm
it.
a huge fan of this world.
I
and
love
stuff,
this world, and
I
no,
love it.
it can't compare to like the original because that was animated. It was like it went a lot deeper. They were a lot more exploratory with it. I'm gonna give this an 8.
Mm-hmm.
It had a few issues, but I was just happy to see the movie.
Yeah.
And they didn't shit all over it.
Yeah.
I think is the best way to put it. So it wasn't awful. It wasn't the best one of it all, but it wasn't horrible to me. And yeah, it had some pacing issues, but I think with what they had and what they were allowed to do with it, I think they did the best they could given the plot they had to go with.
Yeah. And Beard, what did you think?
I'm gonna have to.
Since
give
you
it,
have seen the original,
Yeah.
most freshly in your mind.
I'm gonna have to give it an 8 as well.
Aha!
It was.
Super sci-fi fan
Yes,
over
hey,
here.
I mean-
You gotta give it that little boost.
Yeah,
because-
it was a fantastic movie. I had a great time watching it all the way through. I was engaged the whole time. I did love the fan service.
Yeah.
I will say that. They have tons of that. Even if they were just cameos, I still appreciated it. It showed that they actually care about the source material and they wanted to get it right.
Okay, and as a fan, you didn't feel that the originals did it better, and why the hell didn't they just go with
Well,
some of the original stories?
The originals, I think, are always going to be better, but I think they did.
When you're trying to bring it to a mass audience, you don't mind.
I think they did a great job with what they did. Like I said, I liked some of the story in the originals better,
Yeah.
but even this, just on its own, it was still a good story.
Part of me is worried that it didn't do enough here in order to earn that sequel, and you and me and Del know there's way better stories that could have been told here, and
I
we
feel like that's always the case.
and we feel like maybe they tripped up on their opening. They got everything visually right, but maybe not stories.
I don't know.
right.
I think they've got enough stuff that people want to see.
I hope so.
I really hope so.
Okay, so Joe, as a non-fan, where would you put it?
As a non-fan, I'm actually gonna have to agree. I would give this an 8. Visually,
They're
it
not
was
influencing
amazing.
you?
No,
All
I
right.
actually thought this was an 8. I like the visuals. I like the action. And I want to learn more about the characters, which obviously has me more intrigued. I was like, I actually like this. So I'm going to go watch the anime after this.
Yeah, good. So I think that it sucks that I had to be the one to do this.
Oh, no.
But I'm going to give it, it's not that bad. It was a fantastic film. I love it. I love sci-fi. I love being immersed in this world. I'm glad that we're getting this more, I don't know what to call it, high sci-fi or tech sci-fi? Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I fucking love that. And so I have an affinity to want to pump these scores up. And I want to give it an 8, but I can't.
But
I can't. I have to give it a 7 because I think that with the talent that they had there was obviously talent here. They got the visuals and completely, perfect. But what they did is they took the various stories and sort of melded them together and created this mixture when the original stories were superior. If you would have just followed the original tit for tat, or hell, if you would have gone standalone Complex tit for
With
tat,
Laughing Man and
with
everything.
Laughing Man, or
Yep.
or Kuze, the original Kuze,
Yep.
then you know there's lots of different things they could have done, and just stuck with that. Then I think that they would have got a little bit more credit. Give your audience a little bit more credit, and I hope it did well enough with audiences that we do get a sequel, because this is
I really
a
want one.
universe that I think is still prime. Now they kind of fucked up with some of the lore, but I guess they could still do the Puppet Master. They could still
They could do Laughing Man really
They
easy,
could do
so,
Laughing
yep.
Man. They could do these different stories that mass audiences haven't seen, and I think that it will intrigue them more, and they'll be thinking about it a lot more.
It's a lot rolled up into one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so 7 out of 10 is the final verdict, and I want more. I hopefully it does well, and we do see more. I thought all that stuff about whitewashing and Scarlett Johansson causing a controversy is a fucking non-issue.
It's a non-issue.
It's a non-issue. Even people in Japan support that decision, bringing it to a wider audience. And there were Japanese actors in this film.
Oh, yeah.
There is a wide, diverse, and there is even, and we'll talk about it in spoilers. There's even an explanation for why she is the way she is and not Japanese, and maybe you'll be happy with the explanation, but there's a little irony in there that I want to talk about and point out. So, thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys, stick around for the spoilers, but we'll see you guys for the next Angry Joe Show. Bye, guys. Okay, so, if you're here, this is all spoiler stuff. You know, Joe's not really, I don't know if he's going to be able to contribute much.
No, not at all.
Okay, how about you like,
Have you guys seen this film?
no, Joe, since you haven't talked much and we talked over you, tell us who was the bad guy, the first bad guy in this film. What was his identity? What was it revealed that he was?
He was the first of. He wasn't the first of his
Yeah, yeah,
kind,
no, he was.
he?
He was one of the first.
He was one of the experiments
like
before
95th.
her.
So he was basically, you know, Makoto before Makoto, before the Major. He was an experimentation. There were 98
96.
96,
97 counting her.
97. One of those.
Something
I
like that,
forget.
yeah.
It
forget
was
the-
90 something.
in
I
the
remember
90s
that.
of people that they experimented on to try to make this project work between you know, robotic bodies and real
brains,
human
yeah.
brains, and finding the soul of a human. And the reason why is because they wanted to control their property,
ghost.
but at the same time they wanted the quick thinking and the intuitiveness of a human brain, and
Analytic
the
and
flexibility of a human brain.
They wanted
And
the
this-
perfect weapon.
They wanted the perfect weapon, exactly. This is the first time they got it.
I also
Um,
gotta say, I really loved the mother thing that they
Yeah.
did with her when she was like.
Yeah, this is the first time we get to see her have a family, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever got to see that in the anime.
Not if
They
I
give her a
remember
mother.
correctly.
They give her a mother, and just that whole interaction scene I thought was done really well. Where
Mm-hmm.
she was into the apartment and she was just like blank the entire time, but her mom just kept like that woman who acted as her mom out.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell like she was really good at like seeing her daughter every now and then, and she was like hesitating and shit. I just thought
Yeah,
that
that
entire
was-
acted scene was really
There was
well
a
done.
there was a scene where once she realizes that, you know, she was a you know, obviously who she really is, where she was taken from poverty, sort of a lawless area of runaways, and this corporation sort of rounded up a bunch of basically homeless people to experiment on them, right? And one of these homeless people was a daughter of this Japanese lady that she goes and visits after she learns her identity. And she's still confused, but she can see that, you know, this mother is her actual mother, and her mother starts to see hints of her daughter in this person that's visiting her, and she's like, "Who are you?" And she's like, "I don't know." But
Yeah.
but you know, as she runs out and leaves, she's like, "Are you gonna visit me again?" And she says, "Yeah, I
I'll
will."
be back.
And I was
That's
like,
so
"Oh,
bad. It's like, even if I
Yep.
don't know you, I still would.
that's a touching scene, you
It
know."
was.
And
It
she
really
was
was.
such a gentle old lady that I want to visit her now.
I really did, yeah. I loved
I was
it.
like, she
Great
didn't even
fucking
stay for
scene.
tea. She left before she even got tea.
So-
And I love that they even did the thing like her cat recognizing her was like one of those things where it was like, oh wow, they actually went that far.
Oh shit!
Her cat recognized
That's why,
who
and
she
so
was,
all
yeah.
the glitches that she sees throughout the movie are relevant to that, because she sees a cat just glitch in her apartment. She's like, I don't have a cat. She doesn't say that, but then later she sees this architecture that glitching, and this is where that she lived, where the homeless people lived. That they ripped her from her home. So the initial, getting back to the initial point, is Kuze came from this same homeless group or runaway group, and he was experimented on first. Of course, he didn't turn out as beautiful. They wanted to kill him, and so that's why he was sort of rebelling and trying to, kill people associated with the project to get revenge. And of course, we have our evil corporate overlord guy, villain number 2, the head of the Hanaka Corporation. Probably not the head of the Hanaka Corporation, but just one of the.
No, he was the CEO.
Okay.
Mr. Cutter.
Mr. Cutter
was the
fucking
CEO.
asshole. So Kuze, much more interesting than Mr. Cutter. Cutter, takes over at the end, tries to kill both the Major and Kuze with a fucking spider tank that we've seen in the original, which is fucking awesome.
I loved it.
Yeah, it was a really cool scene.
I think she even beat it the same exact way she did
She
in
did.
the anime.
It was a little more brutal in the actual anime. She rips both of her arms off, and she comes. And she needs 100% help getting out of there. I kind of didn't like how, I guess they were like, oh shit, we can't show women are vulnerable or whatever. I was like, no, you did an amazing job. This one woman killed a fucking tank that is
She can be carried for like
She
the
can
last
be carried by Batal. Yeah, exactly.
And they could have had like a
Bato.
heartfelt moment where he was like looking at her and she realized that she wasn't alone or something.
Yeah.
Because that was her theme through the entire movie. She's like, I feel alone, I feel alone. And she could have like just passed out with a smile on her face.
Right,
or something.
and
They
know
could
that
done
you
it
have
like
you have a friend in Bato, So I think they could have gone that way. But no, she gets up. She's only one of her arms is jumped up. In fact, the other arm's fine. It's like puts her hand on his shoulder,
Well,
and
it's
she
missing
just walks
like
off
80%
with
of
it.
its skin. But
Yeah.
it's fine. It's fine.
You don't need your
That's
skin.
totally okay.
You don't need your skin.
You don't
Yeah.
need it.
So overall, it was a great film, and I think it just falls just short of the original. I was hoping for 8, 9 territory. Ended up 7. These guys.
Yeah, that was
8.
it. I love the detail in this movie.
It's cool. It sets up a future that isn't all that outlandish, because eventually maybe we will mix with computers, and then we already see people hacking into shit now.
Yeah.
If you put that shit in your body and your brain, you'll.
Speaking of hacking,
you
I
open
feel
up.
bad for those 2 trash guys.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys got fucked. So
They're just chilling, enjoying their break,
Right.
having some food. Next thing you know,
Kuze hacks
Dead.
into their mind, turns them
Dead.
into basically assassins.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand where they got the weapons. He had his own fucking advanced cloak and an assault rifle. Fucking trash men don't have that kind of shit. If they would have just showed, they probably cut it out. They probably showed them picking up a briefcase. They
Oh, yeah.
had
Well, it's
planted.
because they were already under his control.
They were sleeper control. They were sleepers.
Oh,
Yep.
they were
They even talk about how he
sleeper.
had fake
Gotcha.
memories
Felt
about
so
a daughter
bad.
and all that.
Yeah.
But they were preset, and they were like, his whole life doesn't
I
exist.
do feel it's
pretty
possible
sure.
there's a few deleted scenes that sort of expand on his sleeper army.
I kind of want the Blu-ray to see all the
Oh,
behind-the-scenes stuff
yeah.
for sure.
This all
I'm pretty sure that scene happened in Stanlow Complex. I think the trash scene. And I think it was the Laughing Man who actually took them over.
Yeah, see, it's
Yeah,
a
the
mixture of
Laughing Man hacked
everything.
people.
Yeah.
So
I could be mistaken.
so
so which one do I need to see first?
great.
The original.
Original movie.
You're almost
1995.
convincing me to bring it to an 8 here in the spoiler section, because I do want to see more of this. But I think as time will judge, and as a fan with high hopes, I think 7 is fair. So thank you guys so much for watching the spoiler section. Put all your opinions where you think that they can go with it next, and whether you thought that Scarlett Johansson did a good job as the Major. All right, guys. That's it, and we will see you on the next Angry Joe Show. Bye, guys. Oh, one more thing I want to put in here towards the end in our spoiler section before we finish is I touched a little bit about on the review, the whitewashing thing, where, why didn't you choose a Japanese actress instead of choosing, an American actress? And like I said in the review, put that shit to bed. It's over with. It's done. It was never a really big deal. But I do want to play a little devil's advocate just for 1 second and point out a little bit of irony. Did you catch it? Where she actually is Japanese. The original
They use Japanese brain.
Makoto
Yep.
is Japanese, and you see a scene of her as a Japanese girl being escorted away to be turned into a robot, and her mother is Japanese. So the irony is that a corporation, sort of like Hollywood, has taken a Japanese actor and stripped them of their identity and their Japaneseness and replaced them with a perfect Hollywood American, like Scarlett Johansson, just perfect body and white person. And so there is a little bit of irony in that. And they actually, that is real. They hit that. So she's a Japanese person in a white person's body. We got Get Out too. Here.
Well, the other thing to talk about is the woman who designed her and everything was basically, she was white.
Yeah, white American.
She designed her to basically be like her daughter or surrogate type of thing.
Yeah, so she was kind of the second mother kind of
And so she designed her after like what she thought a daughter would be. So it's not unbelievable that she would have been white.
I do think it's slightly unbelievable though. This doctor does end up saving her. When the corporation says she's out of control, let's just move on to another one. Go kill her, you should be the one to do it. She injects her with yellow instead of red so that she can get out and get away. And I was thinking to myself, man, you like this one this much? You killed 93 other ones, 94 other ones.
That survived though.
Or didn't care much about them, and all of a sudden this is the one you care about. Why? Because she looks like
were...
Scarlett Johansson?
Yeah, exactly.
I
mean, I would
pretty.
too.
Well, this was pretty.
I'd be like, I can't throw this away.
Okay,
can't throw that one.
Sensitive subject, and I can understand the mentality of it. It was like she had 96 miscarriages beforehand, and that was the first time her kid actually came out the way she wanted it.
And it could be the fact that he suggested she kill her with her own hand or whatever, and then she's like, all right. Or seeing, how about this? Or seeing the Major actually start to recover her memories or start to realize that, she is her own thing, and then she had an identity crisis.
Connected with
well,
humanity.
oh my God, what have I been doing? I'm not going to let this continue. So it can be explained.
A lot of reasons.
It can be explained. But it's fascinating, and I encourage you to go out and see this in theaters. This is definitely one that I'm going to pick up on Blu-ray.
Yep.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yep. All right, guys. So, that's it. And I just want to throw that in here towards the end. And thank you for watching. So we'll see you on the next Angry Joe Show. Bye, guys.
The